What is up, you guys? Robert Wilkenbrod here of CINEMATALKEry, back with another episode. This is our first episode in quite a few days. Spreading things out a little more, but there's going to be plenty more content to come, especially as the busy season for movies, or one of the busy seasons of the year, arrives. And technically it is here already, because March is a loaded month. We have Mulan, Bloodshot, The Way Back, which just debuted on Friday night. And we also have this movie that just had its preview night Thursday, titled Onward. It's Disney and Pixar's latest film, and it stars the likes of Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Octavia Spencer. Now, this film, it's the first of two of Disney and Pixar flicks that are coming out this year, with the other one being Soul, which comes out in June. So this is the start. It's also the start of a very busy year for Disney in general, to say the least, because it's got Marvel coming up with Black Widow. Of course, there's Mulan. There's all the stuff coming on Disney Plus, including all those Marvel shows. Season 2 of The Mandalorian later this year, and so much more movies and TV shows in the big screen, small screen, all that kind of stuff. It's a hell of a year for Disney. 2020, 2021 is going to be even bigger. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked here. Let's get into a little movie called Onward. Kids who are from a modern day but magical, almost like a fairyland kind of place or town or city, if you want to say. It's not fully established, I don't believe, but they are. It's a very magical, fairy tale-ish kind of town that's been built up over the years. People live in mushroom houses, and there's people who do magic. Not everyone can do magic, but we find out in the film along the way developments with that, which we'll get into shortly. And of course, as you've seen in the trailer, the plot is the two kids in the film, or I should say the two brothers, because they're not. Yeah, because Tom Holland's character, who is Ian, is 16 years old, and Chris Pratt's character, Barley, is a little older. They go on this quest to complete their father, who they bring back via a spell, but only the bottom half of him, and they only get 24 hours to be with him. So they go through a quest to get the other half of his body, and it leads into a whole film that we're going to talk about more now. And there are going to be spoilers. I'm not going to drop every single spoiler in the film, or I'm going to try not to. I apologize in advance. But yes, this is your spoiler warning right now, because we are going to talk about the events of Disney and Pixar's Onward. So go check out our other content on CINEMATALKEry. We're going to have something up probably on The Way Back by next week. Probably more on the Mets side of things too, because I added a whole Mets section to this. If you're into the New York Mets, that's great. Or if you're not, even if you like baseball, go check it out. But yeah, with that said, we're going to get into Disney and Pixar's Onward. So Onward is, I didn't read many reviews beforehand. I just didn't want to get an idea in my head of how I should be thinking, rather than letting myself freely think during the film. But whew, oh man. It was an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. The film hits you hard from the start. And these Pixar films are just known for getting you in the beginning. Great start, including like with Up and WALL-E and so on. The way how they establish films in those first 10 to 15 minutes, they're either tremendous or they're just gut-wrenchingly emotional. And this was a combination of them. because it was really good. Because we just establish who Ian is, and we establish his family. We establish his, most importantly, his father being out of his life. Now, we only find out that Ian never met his father, but his father passed away from an illness and had a lot of tubes in him. They never say what he had. They never go into depth with it, which is fine. This is a PG movie. That's okay. We don't need to talk about cancer or anything like that. This is a lighthearted movie, and they keep it very general, and that's okay. That's okay. So we find out that Ian, he's turning 16 years old. Again, that's Tom Holland's character, and he wants to he just finds out he wants to learn more about his father. Now, you see this father get mentioned a few times in the first few minutes, but then he runs into one of his father's old college friends because he was wearing one of his sweatshirts, and the man goes into how much he liked him, Ian's father, and Ian starts to ask for more, but the man has to go. So this really sets Ian off on this idea of, okay, I want to learn more about my father, which is great. He wants to learn more about someone who was unfortunately not in his life. I loved all that. I'll get into a little more towards the end of this show why this really all struck an emotional chord with me, but he never met his father, and this sets him on this quest to go out and meet him. So it doesn't even get to that yet, I guess, because it's more of a quest of he wants to learn information from his mother, and then it turns into what the mother pulls from the attic, which is this wand stick-like thing that that with a note left in it for him and Barley. For when they're old enough, and it gives them this spell or gives them this ability with this gem to bring the father all the way back for 24 hours. Gives Ian a chance to talk to him and meet him, and have his only personal moment of his life with him, which it seems like a truly special thing. So they go ahead and they attempt this, the magic with his wand, and they only get half because the gem ends up breaking, or it just ends up running out of its power. So they only get half of his father, but the father is still, even though it's just his crotch and his waist and his legs and his feet, the father's still there. He just obviously can't see anything, but he acts with his legs, and Pixar really shows off in emotions with legs, which is kind of a funky thing that works throughout the film. But yeah, and now that sets off this quest now for Ian and Barley, where they think they need to find, or they want to find, the father's upper half, so they can talk to him, they can go through the things with him and whatnot for the next 24 hours. The only problem is this quest now to find the other gem is going to waste time, and we get that very clearly early on, is that it's going to waste time, and that gets us into the middle of the film, which we'll get into soon here. There's a couple of I have a couple of qualms with it, I guess. But I'll just stick to the beginning here for the meantime. For the beginning, though, we get established themes here of Ian being this adolescent, and now Pixar and Disney also always try to instill these themes and lessons, which I love in their films. Ian's this awkward adolescent 16-year-old. He has problems speaking up, talking to people, being vocal in general, and confidence. And the movie plays through Ian trying to develop that confidence along the way. And you see him struggle with that. Now that's not the overarching theme of this movie whatsoever, as it turns out by the end, which takes a very, very emotional twist. Ooh, it takes an emotional twist. But Ian, it starts off very just shy. He's a shy kid. And this quest that he goes on is meant to expose or max out his, or no, reach the potential that he has as a young kid, but just hasn't tapped into yet. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating the ride that Ian goes through, and there's even one that Barley goes through to a smaller degree. But we learn along the way how Barley is kind of a screw up. Doesn't have a lot going on for him. He rides in a magic themed van that's old and broken down. His life surrounds magic and a game because he can't do magic on his own. But we learn that Ian can. But Barley is he goes through his own journey along the way, and it drives a little bit of a wedge between him and Ian and this quest. But in the end, they have something truly special, which we'll get into, because this film's gonna rock you in a few ways here. And the opening is rocky too. I should note that it is emotional. But before we branch out into the other positive things, I just want to get out of the way the middle stuff here, because I really like this movie a lot. I thought it was one of the most emotionally connecting Pixar films ever. But the middle here had some issues, because once we established the quest very early on, which is great, it just left a lot of time to get from point A to point B. And there was things along the way where they go and meet Corey the Manticore, which it's part of the story, and that makes sense. It dragged a little bit at times, but it was still meant towards the overarching goal of the story. The stuff with the Pixie, I think it was, their names was the Pixies, kind of like this small motorcycle gang. I wasn't feeling them too much. I thought they were pretty unnecessary for the most part. I didn't think we need scenes with them with all the fighting and them constantly appearing and getting in the way of things. And they kind of felt like they stalled the movie a little bit, especially when the van Guinevere breaks down. I thought just the interactions with that, it went too long, especially with the father accidentally kicking down the motorcycles and the Pixies getting mad. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, I guess that was my biggest gripe with it. And then I kind of felt that the Manticore character, once she helped out Ian and Barley with the map, or tried to help them out with the map, I kind of thought her place in here just didn't fit as much. Not until the very, very end. And that was only in a small way too. But and her journey with the mother, I thought was okay. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is great. She's terrific. And I thought the mother character was fine, but the interactions, their banter was fine. The mother's main thing for going after the kids was just a general thing of, oh, my kids are out there somewhere. We don't get that fully developed and that kind of just happened quickly. She's like, oh, we gotta send the cops after my kids, which turns out to be her new husband. But yeah, that kind of felt a little off too. Just didn't feel fully established, or just felt too quick, I guess if you could say. But yeah, some of the stuff in the middle just felt long, and at times the stuff with the father just was a little much at times, or maybe just didn't really, I actually shouldn't say much, but it didn't establish too much for any type of relationship and whatnot. Because like we were watching a legs and waist walk around for a lot of the movie, which it was. I mean, it creates some great emotions at times, but other times it was a little silly. But that's okay though. This film, I mean, it's set in the magical world. It's not supposed to be fully there like that. But yeah, pushing that aside though, I mean, I really liked this film. I can't say it was perfect, but I really liked Onward. And of course, we learn what Onward is. Onward is a setting on or a custom-made setting on Barley's van Guinevere when Ian has to learn how to drive. So we figured that out, and that's when Barley says like Onward and all that stuff. Anyway, to the end of the film, or I should say the final act. The final act was freaking awesome. Or even a little bit before that too. Ian and Barley in this terrific final act that we're going to dive into now. How they kind of split apart a little bit because Ian kind of sees how Barley is a bit of a screw up along the way, and Barley of course takes offense to that, but they're still together for their journey. And then towards the end, there's an instance where Barley seemingly takes them the wrong way for somewhere, or at least that's what they think. And Ian freaks out on him, calls him a screw up, and they briefly part. And that's when this final act really gets going, because Barley figures, and it is an emotional fight too between the two, but then that gets into Barley finding where this last piece of the puzzle is for this gem, and everything just goes from there. It goes into a whole battle with this cursed dragon, and it's this whole final fight that's actually a lot of fun. The mother gets involved, the Manticore gets involved, and they're running out of time in these final few minutes here. And it's anxiety because the sun's setting, and the father, they might not get any time with him, and you're just like, wow, it's like, that's a hell of a twist, because you thought the whole time throughout the movie that they were going to get at least some time to spend with their father, but that's the first twist in the end here, because you actually think that, I mean, you think it throughout the film that they're inevitably going to they're going to see their father, and Ian's going to meet him. But as the clock's ticking, that does not seem like the case, and it's truly believable. And it's actually pretty much the case here, because through the battles with the cursed dragon, Ian gets trapped in rocks, and this is around when he goes through this realization. Or a little before that too. Ian realizes all along that while he would love to meet his father, he's had a father figure that's been by his side throughout his whole life. Now, the way how I'm going to explain this, it's not going to do it justice, because that ending sequence is holy shit. It's emotional. They go through this whole montage of Ian and how close he was with Barley over the years, or just how Barley always looked after Ian and how he was always there by his side. And it was just like, holy shit. It made my eyes water. That's the first film of 2020 to make my eyes water. It was sad. I shouldn't say sad, but it's just emotional, and just like, you have a family member like that who's always been by your side like that, when you don't even realize it. That's whew. Oh man, it's rough. And Ian realizes it, and he decides to tell Barley, as the time's running out, that Barley should be the one to see the dad, because the dad, as he was getting sick, as we find out, Barley was never able to muster up the courage to say goodbye to his dad, which was a sad part of the film too. He never got that moment to really, say goodbye. That's a very, very real thing that we're going to get into shortly here more. And when Ian realizes that, him and the Manticore and the mother focus on stopping the cursed dragon in time, so Barley can actually say goodbye to his dad, and they end up getting that opportunity. It only lasts about maybe 45 seconds to a minute, and we actually uniquely see it all from Ian's view. Now, some people may have a problem with that. But I haven't read that. I don't know if people would have a problem with it, but I actually think that was a great touch, because this film is all through Ian's perspective. Everything's through Ian's perspective in this film. Yes, we get development for Barley, but this is Ian's story for trying to meet his father. But Barley kind of eventually takes over the story near the end a little bit. But we do see how Ian, we see the ending through Ian's vision, and we never get a look at the father's face, which is another interesting decision too by the creators of Onward, because we see pictures of the father, we see his legs, but it's interesting because we're watching this from Ian's perspective, and that, like Ian, we're never going to meet the father, and we're not fully in Barley's perspective the entire film, or really for the majority of it. So it's all through Ian's eyes, and I actually think that was kind of good. We never hear the father speak. We never see a live action portrait of his face or his torso, except for his back and the back of his head and his arms, and that's okay. That's okay. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that at all, because you see how it hits with Ian. And it's crazy how the father mission almost becomes a subplot at the end. It's because for the whole movie, it's the whole thing, but the theme and lesson of valuing your family members while they're here, or cherishing them, or not taking things for granted. Anything in that range takes over here, and it takes over the final 15 20 minutes of the film, which I like. It was a drastic swerve, but an emotional swerve, not even a plot twist, but an emotional swerve, and that changes the direction of things, and I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. It was a surprise to me. I did not expect that coming, and I thought it was a really cool, different type of twist, because we get these crazy plot twists in movies sometimes that just don't work. This worked. This worked a lot, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty cool. But we never see the father, and we see Ian really value Barley, and Barley respects it, and it leads to them having this really tight bond, and it fully establishes Ian as this coming of age character that really finds himself at the end of this hour and 50 minutes, which is cool. Now this movie Onward, I should also say, resonated with me a bit. I'll keep this brief, but I lost my father about 18 months. 21 months ago. He passed away due to complications from an illness called multiple sclerosis. Battled it for 30 years. He had tubes lined up to him near his end, and just hearing about that story in the middle of the film, or early on, how they explained it, it sounded a little familiar to me, and the emotional ride throughout along the way, and just how at the end Barley got the one last moment with his father that he always craved, or or kind of like for Ian too, how he always longed for just one moment with his father, and yeah, it goes for any family members of yours or anyone's that have passed away. You always want just one last moment with that person. Just want one more to cherish and to just say everything you want to say. And we really get that towards the end with Barley getting to say goodbye. Not everyone gets to say goodbye to their loved ones, which sucks. And this is an animated film, but it kind of goes into that dream like stage of bringing back someone that you love, and you want to get one last moment with them. So that particularly hit me because I know I had that moment with my father when he was on his hospital bed a couple of years ago. So, and I had my last moments with him, which I will always cherish. But yeah. So seeing that at the end with Barley going through with that, and just being that overall story of the film of trying to get one last moment with their father, holy crap, it got me. It really got me more than I frankly expected it to. So changing notes here a little bit. For Pixar films, where Onward stands, I would not say it sits in the elite top level, I guess. It's a very good film. I would give it out of 5 stars. I give Onward a solid 4. But compared to the likes of WALL-E, Toy Story, Inside Out, among those, it's tough to crack into those, and understandably so, because those are great films. But I would place Onward on the outside looking in by a notch or two, and that's not meant as an indictment of the film for a bad thing at all. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a very, very good film. Great emotional moments. The beginning and the end were awesome, particularly the final act, as I said. And yeah, maybe we'll do a Pixar film ranking one day. But for right now, I would put it just a little. We're just on the outside looking in right now. And I would highly recommend everyone goes out and sees it. It's PG. Yeah, it's animated. Some people have gripes with that. I probably said that a few times in previous episodes, but over the course of the past month, I have started to watch animated films on my own time, and I am actually starting to appreciate them a little more than I used to. And as a child, I don't know, I started thinking about it. I don't know why I got out of animated films. I actually don't. It kind of befuddled me. Because really doesn't matter. As long as the story's good, the animation's good, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's an animated film or PG. It can still be good. It can still be great. It can still be legendary. And yeah, I'm discovering that lately through watching a lot of animated films from previous years. Whether it's and it's not just Pixar films either. It goes further than that. So I advise, as I've tried saying in previous episodes, like including when we were talking about foreign films, I highly advise that you go out of your comfort zone with watching movies, because whether it's subtitles or animation or the rating, none of that should hold you back. Now, of course, not every movie is made equally, but to give it at least a chance, there's a lot of good things here in different varieties. And if you're open to them, you might be exposed to different kinds of films that you would never think you would like, and you would come to appreciate, and you'd want to learn more about. I recommend people trying to do that, I recommend even them continuing to do that if they already are, because there's a lot to explore out there, and you only live once, and there's a lot of stuff missing out there that you're missing out there, that I'm missing out there, that's worth it for all of us to go check out and invest some time in to appreciate. So that will do it for this episode of CINEMATALKERY, discussing Onward for a solid 30-ish minutes here. Our next episode probably was going to cover the way back, I guess. Either way back or Bloodshot, or it's to be determined right now, but we'll see. You can follow me at RealRobWolken on Twitter, which you can find in the comments section below here, or the information, I should say. You can please subscribe to this channel. I would love to get us to that 100 mark. And as I noted earlier in the episode 2, if you are into New York Mets or baseball in general, check out our Shea Ball playlist of videos, which are going to be pumped out probably 2 to 4 times per week. We're going to be talking a lot about Mets. It's a passion project of mine. CINEMATALKERY is a passion project of mine too, but that's for a sports realm where I'm going to speak, and then we're also going to write. And my first little article is up on SheaBall.com. It's not the most in-depth piece, but once down the line, once we get into the regular season for Major League Baseball, we're going to do a little more now. And the topic is on the back end of the rotation for the Mets. So that will do it for this edition of CINEMATALKERY. Thanks for watching.